Good morning, and welcome to Namaste today, a sunny way to begin your day. I'm your heartfelt host and the Sensei to Serious Joy, Christopher Witecki. This audio blogcast is for Thursday, April 13th, 2017. Welcome back, my friend and earthly neighbor. Namaste. Today is the big turning point, the turning point of the person you want to become and turning away from the person you no longer want to be. In today's zodiac weather, I'll talk about the power of the sun conjoining Uranus. And later in our tea time, since it is the sun conjuncting Uranus, that means it's test time. It's time for our spiritual aptitude test. But first, let's take a look at today's moods and your zodiac weather. This zodiac weather is for Thursday, April 13th, 2017. And my forecast for the global planet Earth is sunny and quantum today. Most people on Earth will be shifting their dimensions, their perceptions, and the direction of their character. And the moon in Scorpio makes sure you're protected along the way. Let's take a look at the planets. Well, I am very pleased to say that the day has finally come. We are at the top of the mountain, my friend. When I say mountain, I mean us climbing up out of our old egos and onto a new view of ourself and hopefully of the world. I'm talking about the sun conjoining Uranus today at step 24. Whenever the sun conjuncts Uranus, this is the annual, let's say, big test from Spirit. If you pass the test, you're upgraded to the next grade. If you fail the test, you're demoted back to the last grade. This is the sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach for those who are not ready yet. Today, the Sun and Uranus are conjunct at step 24, and Mars is harmonizing in at step 24, Taurus. What does this mean? Well, step 24 comes down to where we feel, step 2, that we belong, step 4. When you feel where you belong, you can open up, step 6, and receive the next level. So basically, the real test of the day is, can you open up? And you can only open up if you truly feel you belong on this next level. Now, since we're in Aries, the next level is and has to do with our ego. This is our behavior, our actions, how we respond, how we defend ourselves, what we do first thing in the morning, what we do the last thing in the day. This is everything we put into motion, and what we put into motion is what becomes reality. So it's a big piece of the overall story. And on top of that, the sun is now trining Saturn, which is conjoining the galactic center, and that means that this particular test, whether you ascend or stay at this particular grade, is all part of the story you were born to live. Now, the moon today is in Scorpio, so that means emotions are sensitive to boundaries, but it's the high degrees of Scorpio, so that means that you're emotionally feeling through future boundaries, boundaries necessary for where you are going, and also feeling through any boundaries that might be trying to hold you back. In the actual experience of being human today, the goal is to open up to the action or the path that really shows the path of least resistance. Truly, when we are ascending our ego, that is when we're giving up the fight, we must give up that fight in order to get higher, which means the bridge that takes us there is always peaceful. That's what step 24 really teaches, that our highest belonging will end up in a 6, which is peace and our ability to receive. So today you might be tested, my friend. You might be tested to respond down an old avenue or an old path. You may be tested to get into a fight with an old enemy or old adversary. You might be tempted back to old negative behavior that you once lived. As the old saying goes, just when you're about to succeed, the devil will tempt you back. And that is likely part of your test today. But also, for those people who are trying to enter into mastery, your test won't be the devil tempting you back. Your test will be your focus and ambition to improve your life when nothing is actually wrong. So it really is a test of strength today for everyone to move forward on the right direction or in the right direction that is best for their soul and best for their heart's content. One last little interesting thing, Venus has now conjoined Chiron directly at step 26 Pisces, and this means that whatever step you are taking now, it is either healing or it is continuing a karmic pattern. And the planets are lined up for the healing. In fact, step 26 means that with this action or direction you take, you are in fact committing to a new spiritual path. So you could say today is two things. It is your spiritual aptitude test with the Sun conjuncting Uranus, and it is the turn of karma and the commitment to a spiritual path. Now, that said, I thought I'd give you a little advice on this whole spiritual aptitude test. So go steep yourself some tea, and let's talk about our SATs. Hello, my friend, and welcome to our tea time. Today's tea time topic is Spiritual Test Day. That's what I believe the Sun conjuncting Uranus is. It is our test day for our soul. The Sun is our heart, and when our heart conjoins Uranus, the instigator and the tester of the zodiac, our heart is tested. Therefore, it is on this day, with this test, that the universe decides whether you're ready to go up to the next grade or whether you need to repeat this one or maybe even go down a grade. The interesting thing about Uranus is it literally spins on its side and it literally determines what energy will go up and what energy will go down. And the weird thing is Uranus really only points upward. It's kind of like an escalator that moves up. But if you're not prepared at the time that the escalator comes, if you're resisting going up whatsoever, you can get knocked down and have to go back to the end of the line. This is sort of how God handles promotions on earth. For the souls who are ready, they're kicked up to the next level. For the souls who are not ready, they're kicked down. Uranus is step 4, the innovator, the part of us that belongs somewhere or does not. So in simplicity, say that in a Mercury retrograde, in simplicity, Uranus is determining where it is you belong. Are you ready and do you belong on the next level? Or are you not ready and do you belong on this level or maybe even perhaps a lower level? So today is the test. And since Uranus is in Aries, the human race has been studying and innovating their egos. And we've been doing this for quite a while now because Uranus is at step 24. So we're getting now to our upper classes on determining who are going to go for masters and who is going to stay in college or high school. That's kind of the level I think this Uranus is offering. Anything past step 24, you should know, is a master path. So if you're not ready, per se, for this next innovation, don't feel bad. I think we all sit out year after year until the time we are ready. But nonetheless, this is the annual test, and we will see how we do. Now, since it's in Aries, it has to do with our ego. It is our ego that is being tested. It is our ego that may get promoted if we pass. Now, if the ego gets promoted, the irony of this is that you will feel some sort of a humbling when it happens, because the ego must humble in order to be promoted. You may have to admit to yourself some sort of fault and be honest with yourself about your failures. Only when you're honest with yourself about your failures can you really shift the ego's direction. If your ego gets promoted, your behavior is going to change. You're also going to see a character change and a willpower change. You'll likely feel a direction change, and as a result, after all these changes, you will see a change in the options the universe has for you. So the end result of promotion is a change in the options. If your ego fails this test and you get demoted, you will likely experience some sort of sense of defeat, of loss, of breakdown, or feeling held back. Your behavior will likely remain the same. You probably will become more defensive, more angry, and your frustration will likely increase. When your ego fails, there's tremendous inner turmoil. And as a result of all these failures for your ego to evolve, you will not see a change in your worldly options at this time. Now, looking at the planets, the real test begins today. The Sun conjoins Uranus, But we have many retrograde planets, so I believe the test basically continues all the way to May 4th. That's when the test results come in, May 4th, when Mercury goes direct. And that means that's when you'll be very clear that the shift has happened or the shift has not happened. So right off the bat, you're going to have to give yourself a little time with this personal test. Now today is step 24, which gives you basically 3 days to implement the points of change necessary for the test. Because when the sun goes step 27, it will be go time. That's the Grandmaster step of 9. That's usually when behavior kind of solidifies, is at step 27. And so after step 27, it'll be very difficult to change your behavior, probably for another year, until the sun comes back into Uranus. So, not to scare you, on the contrary, I want to prepare you. I looked at all the planets and I came up with some questions to ask yourself, and this might be something you even want to jot down. These are the questions to ask yourself to see if you're going to pass the test. And again, this is just based on my interpretation of the planets, and I've grouped them according to the planets. So the first group of questions is all around the sun conjoining Uranus today. All right, are you ready? Question 1, are you willing to let go of your old behavior, even though it's comfortable? Are you willing to let go of your old behavior? Yes or no? Are you willing to go into uncharted territory and take your chances? Yes or no? That basically means, are you willing to stop the old bad behavior, and are you willing to give yourself a little time and space to begin the new behavior? Question number 3, are you willing to admit your faults to yourself? The reason is, you kind of have to admit your own sins to yourself for your ego to humble. If an ego does not admit defeat, it will not rise up to the next level. Question number 4, are you willing to take the path of least resistance? I say this because this is a step 24 test. The sun is conjoining Uranus at step 24, which adds to a 6, which means whatever this action is, it will be the path of least resistance. And question number 5, are you willing to lose the battle in order to win the war? And again, that's based on the nature of the ego. The ego must opt out of conflict in order to rise above that conflict. Okay, the next group of questions is based on Saturn conjoining the galactic center and retrograde at step 27. And Saturn is in Sagittarius, which means it's time to get serious, Saturn, about our beliefs, Sagittarius. And that means that at this particular character shift, how serious we are about our beliefs really is a part of this test, in my opinion. So, in that line of thinking, first question in this group is, are you open to learning more? That's one of the big questions. Are you open to learning more? I know we've learned a lot, but are you open to learning more? Yes or no? Are you open to expanding your life? Because in order to go forward, you will have to expand your life beyond what it is you know. Yes or no? Are you open to expanding? And here's the big one. Question number 3. Are you practicing what you preach and what you teach? That's probably the biggest Saturn question there is. One of the things I have realized is we are born with the answer, and we tend to preach that answer to everyone else, but it's usually the answer we most need. So what separates the students from the teachers or the teachers from the masters is whether or not that teacher is practicing what they know and what they preach. So in my humble opinion, it is time to practice what you preach. Remember, you got 3 days to put this in motion, so it's not too late if you're not doing it. Basically, if you don't practice what you preach, you keep yourself at the theoretical level. You never really move on to that true knowledge, because knowledge is experience applied. And I also find that most people are born with the answer they seek inside of them. So if you practice what you preach, you literally create the vortex out of your birth situation. Okay, group 3 of questions for today's spiritual aptitude test. Group 3 is based on Venus retrograde conjoining Chiron. And they're at step 26, by the way, in Pisces. So very powerful conjunction happening at this very powerful moment. Here's the first question. Can you hold a state of non-self-judgment until May 4th? That's a huge one. Can you hold a state of non-self-judgment until May 4th? There's no way you can promote yourself with any self-criticism or any judgment, just so you know. Regarding that list of mistakes that the ego made, are you willing to forgive yourself for all the mistakes you have made to yourself? Are you willing to completely forgive and later forget? Question number 3. Are you willing to forgive others for their trespasses upon you in this last cycle? If you cannot forgive and let go of the old level, you obviously cannot ascend to the next level. Question number 4. Will you listen to your feelings before making decisions? This is based on the step 26, the fact that Venus and Chiron are at 26. The 2 is I feel. So I'm asking, will you listen to your feelings before you make a decision? Both of these planets are in Pisces, so we also ask the question, are you willing to listen to your intuition before you take action or make decisions? So the real question is, will you listen to your feelings? Will you listen to your intuition? I don't think you can ascend to the next level if you're not listening to these 2 voices inside of you. And since it's step 26, it's going to be a commitment involved as well. So I think the question is, can you commit to the path of least resistance? Can you commit to the easy path, the one that is the most compassionate and easy on your soul's journey? That's the 6 in the 26. And even more importantly, revolving around that 6, can you commit to the path that your heart opens up to? So in other words, whatever your heart wants to open up to, that should be part of your path. To me, this is the bridge out of the level you currently live at. And then finally, group 4 in your spiritual aptitude test based on Mercury retrograde in Taurus. And of course, step 4, the Uranus step. So there's no accidents there, right? Question 1, is your mind willing to let go of the old ego attachments? Can your mind basically let it all go? Or are you going to end up obsessing and bringing this old pattern back? Is your mind willing to align to the goal? And that goal is where you belong. So are you willing to let go of the old thinking? Are you willing to focus on the new thinking is question 2. And then the third question for the smartass is, are you willing to listen to the heart for your instructions versus just your own rhetoric? So are you willing to listen to your heart? Yes or no? And finally, group 5 in your SAT deals with Pluto at step 19 in Capricorn. Are you willing to give this process the time and space necessary? In other words, can you be patient? Or will you give it the space and time you need to transform? Step 0. And this second question is a huge one. Will you protect the new you from the old you? Will you protect the new you from the old you? Are you willing to hold space for that new you and not let the old you interfere? It's a tough boundary to uphold, I know. And that basically concludes my list of questions for you. By the way, I'm not sure if I'm doing super well in all these. I'm going to listen to this myself. But if you answered yes, it's all structured, then you're ready to move up in those points. If you answered no, you might want to work on those. Now remember, you have about 3 days to put all of this kind of consciousness into motion. It's basically time to practice what you preach and listen to these different points I have brought out. And because of where the sun is right now in Aries, the universe is literally crafting this new ego, this new mold of yourself. So if you kind of follow just the metaphysics of the planets, you just have to focus on these dates that I have mentioned. So in the next 3 days, get all these points in line. Then it's time to hold these points and practice these points every day until the end of Aries, which is April 20th. Then, as the sun moves into Taurus, you must make sure that you apply these character changes and keep practicing this new character change until May 4th, when Mercury goes direct. At that point, I think the universe will have slapped you on the back, so to speak, and you're going to find that this new character and this new expression of you is actually doing itself on its own every morning when you wake up. You're not having to try, you're not having to focus. You'll wake up feeling this new you. Now remember a couple of points. You must remain in a state of non-judgment this entire time. You must get yourself out of hell, out of jail, out of mental criticism. You must live in self-compassion and non-judgment until May 4th. You must also take time and space to protect this change. Don't let your old self interfere with your new self. Don't let yourself pick apart the new self. You must protect, like an egg protecting a little chicken, you must protect this new character until May 4th. Now, basically, today is the day we're being given to kind of figure it out. In fact, technically the bell rings tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 4 p.m. Pacific. That's when the bell rings. That's when the sun will dead conjunct Uranus. That's when you'll probably, at least be understanding where you are in the test. Then tomorrow you surrender. Saturday you commit. And Sunday you must begin and apply those lessons. You must put all these lessons into action on Sunday. And isn't it funny that Sunday is Easter Sunday? All right, my friend and earthly neighbor, good luck with your spiritual aptitude test. Don't worry if you get held back a grade. That's happened to Sensei plenty of years. And do your best. Remember, I'll be back here in 24 hours with more. Until then, I love you and live, love, be.
Live, love, be.